Welcome to the Practice Podcast, conversations probing the nature of practice. I'm your host, Dave Fearon.
As I'm thinking of this conversation, I just finished with Brian Hannigan, who is a site and project manager for incredibly tall buildings in New York City. The song came to my head, higher and higher, higher and higher. It's such a treat because I've known Brian since he was my student back in the previous century, and he got started very surprisingly with this company that clads window systems and exteriors for skyscrapers called Permasteelisa. And he had his first project, and we connected about it, talked about it. I brought him to my class. This is a long time ago now, and here we are 20 years later. And he had just finished this extraordinarily beautiful building, One Vanderbilt, I think it's called, down near one of the two rivers. I think it's the Hudson. It's an extraordinary piece of work, and it took him 3 years of steady work. You'll hear all about that kind of work when you listen to Brian speak, which I should let you get to very quickly. But I think if all the ways that I could put a human being in the definition of practice, it would be Brian. Because as you'll hear, he sees everything that needs to be done, with whom keeps everything in a system and moving forward, constantly moving forward, integrating and checking and making sure everything is just right, which it has to be on a building that goes up that far into the air. And he loves it. I teased and said, well, wouldn't you like to not do that? Maybe put on a white shirt and tie and be corporate. No, he says, I want to be in it. I want to see it all coming together. That's practice right there. And he's learning constantly. So this is a great example of what Peter Vale and I set out to offer you all when we introduced how important practice is in the scheme of things, in your life, in the scheme of things, including going higher and higher and higher, putting windows and exteriors on incredibly, amazingly complex buildings. So this is Brian Hannigan. Well, I'm off to my old tricks, folks. I would love to meet new people for the podcast, and I am. I'm recording some coming up, but in the meantime, my old trick is to go back to favorite students. I don't know, Brian, if you knew you were one of my favorites, but you were. It's okay now, I can tell you. And he was Brian Hannigan, when he was my student, we had a crummy old building. He came in at night. I tried to do things. Remember, Brian, was some media. Only media back then was like a projector. You had a reel on it, and I tried to show a film.
We didn't have smartphones.
Oh my God. But Brian persisted and graduated. And just after graduation, not much longer after graduation, he started working initially as a temp, right, Brian, as Permasteelisa?
Permasteelisa North America, yeah.
And now, is it still called that? Because I think there were a couple of name changes that went along with your career.
Yeah, actually, it was Permasteelisa Cladding Technologies, and it's evolved into Permasteelisa North America for, I don't know, maybe the last 10 or so years.
Have they diversified beyond cladding, or is that still their main thing?
We do curtain wall, we do ornamental metal, entrances, and then we also do some interiors, office partitions and, office spaces. But primarily right now, it's the high-end building facades. I mean, we get into a lot of the ornamental glass, ornamental metal, and, we have different divisions. We have a German division that's top of the line, world class when it comes to these ornamental metal structures, art pieces almost. Something like in Manhattan and Hudson Yards, the Vessel, which is
I've seen pictures of that.
Just difficult and tedious, and you need these guys that are able to work on Swiss watches in order to install.
Wow. So, folks, the saga is that Brian was a temp in this particular plant, and they were watching the assemblies. And to make a long, rambling story short, he got tapped on the shoulder one day and offered a chance to stay with the company and get into the project management practice stream. But it's kind of like they push you out a little bit. But they didn't give you too much of a life preserver or a rope, did they, when they pushed you down to Times Square that first time?
No, it was kind of, here's a contract, here's a spec, here's some drawings, here's a list of material, and go find your way on the train and go figure it out.
Yeah, and you did. Thank goodness. So we having a conversation about a different practice, but that was a very unique specialty for almost anyone in the world to have these tall structures, getting taller, it seems, every time I connect with you, where you were part of a very, hopefully, tightly woven system that it took of the various contractors and all of the various elements to either build these buildings from the below ground up, or in some cases start renewing them and resurfacing them and all that. And we've talked off and on, and I brought you to class often about what it is to have a project nature. And I'm imposing that. You almost have to have a nature. You can't just be cerebral. It can't just be specs on paper. You actually have to be a project personality.
Absolutely.
What do you think of that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every project that I've worked on, for the past 20 years, every project is different. Every team of people you deal with is different. The materials are different. The geometries are different. The logistics are different. Even in Manhattan, there's, different areas of Manhattan that are more difficult to maneuver in and around. And
that's right.
You have to deal with, traffic or, whoever's in town, if they shut down streets, and embargoes where you can't put a crane on a street during certain, Christmas or holiday seasons. So everything is moving, tons of different parts. And then you just have a big team of people to coordinate everything with, whether it be the general contractor, the owner, the architect, but then there's 20 other building trades that all kind of play into the overall project. But, the slightest of changes, if we need to change something on our side to make a detail work, and we have to change, say the thickness of the depth of the wall system, that will translate into changing plumbing systems or elevator, so there's a trickle down effect on everybody that's involved between putting the structure up and then putting the skin on the building, which is, my part, and then building out the rest of the floor, or every floor. So it's a lot of coordination. It's a lot of communication, a lot of aggravation sometimes. We get there, we live it every day, and, somehow find the motivation to come to work every day and want to get the job done.
That's what I think I mean by you are a project guy, big P, because with all the change, there's a stabilizer that has to be a human stabilizer, a come back to guy, a go-to guy, a guy who gets out ahead and then pulls people along on behalf of the project, not just your own company's exterior cladding and window systems. You and a few others who have these major parts of the installation, you guys have to be, steady eddies in a way, and I can't imagine, it's frustrating, but I can't imagine how it would be if you guys were the loud, blowing your top, freaking out kind of people. That would indicate that the project's in trouble.
Right.
So part of what you got to do, Brian, kind of hold it in, right? We always try to keep everything to what the design intent is, and there's always going to be different nuances of a building that
the architect will come up with a design, and the engineer is going to do a pre-design of what they believe is will work. And then they, when we come on board onto a job, I mean, they basically hire us to make the wall work, to make it work for, seismic performance and wind and rain, water and wind and everything. That's what they hire us for. And that's why, Permasteelisa is historically we've always had the best engineers and the best designers. Hopefully the best project managers.
I would add that.
But to try to just bring everything together and, not lose focus on where the priority is. The end goal is to have a successful project and, make the client happy, and then have a beautiful looking building at the end of the day. So we've done pretty well throughout the course of my 20 years.
You sure have. When we had a conversation recorded a while ago now, you had just been finishing up the Vanderbilt. Was it Vanderbilt?
Yeah, one Vanderbilt Tower, yeah.
Right. And I remember looking on the web and looking at that and thinking, wow, that is a work of art. That's a beautiful building. And
it is. It might be number one on my list of best projects that I've ever done. I'm a little bit biased to it, of course, but
no, listen, it is beautiful and functional. But when it was done, how did that feel? No more rush, no more punch things to do. It's done.
It was a little
ribbons cut.
it was a little bittersweet. I mean, I lived the job for 3 straight years, on site. I mean, I would have dreams and nightmares sometimes of panel counts of how many panels we were going to install in a day, or getting, just panels delivered to the job site. So, when we finished, it was kind of like, all right, well, now what? Now what am I going to do? But I'll tell you it was back in October, just this past October, the observation deck, which is a 3-floor observation deck in the building. They opened the observation deck. So we got tickets and we went up to, take a walk through, and that was like, it was cool. It was just to be able to stand there in the finished building, see the views. I mean, I had seen the views 1,000 times.
Yes, you had.
But to see it in the condition and in like the light of how I was looking at it, it was incredible. It was something that, it was something I was certainly proud of. I'm still proud of it. I see the building every day. And it's a beautiful building. It's going to be here for, 100 years, if not more. And, I will say, if you have the opportunity to come, go up to this observation deck and take a look.
But maybe when my wife and I get over our fear of the latest variants, that would be a real treat.
It definitely was a proud moment for myself to stand in that building and, just show my friends and my girlfriend who was with me that, this is what we did. This is a huge accomplishment. It was extremely difficult, project. But I mean, I had a great team of people that were, working for us and installing, and engineers and designers and production planners and everybody that was around us, that everybody came through. Everybody just stepped up and did what they needed to do. And, we had a good team of project managers, myself and a couple other guys. Actually, maybe you didn't have him as a student, but I think right now he might be graduating from the business school at Central.
Really?
Yeah, his father was actually, my counterpart on the projects, working on the project management side. So
I might have had his father in school. That's how old I am. But I think of that coincidence, though, how that works. And here's you, I think of as a kid from Connecticut, one of the very few human beings on earth who's ever done what you've done with that particular building. And I know we'll talk about some others, but that in itself is mind-boggling. And the other is that almost every time that I've had one of these conversations with people I knew or didn't know, somehow or another, they know someone from CCSU, from Central Connecticut State University.
Yeah.
It's weird. Well, we do have over 90,000 living graduates out there in the world, but as a small regional campus compared to some of the major universities all around, particularly there in the city, you still come across people, one of whom, Samantha Giava,
Oh, yeah.
is she's a podcast. About 5 or 6 episodes ago, she left Permasteelisa, went to Chile.
That's right. Yeah.
South America, came back, married with 2 kids, with 2 girls.
Yeah, I think she had just gotten married and maybe was like having her first kid or something when she left Burma.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And hit Chile, working for a German company, and back here, and now her territory for this particular specialized software that she represents is North America. So she's from the Arctic Circle, down to Mexico, and she was a friend of yours, and pretty much a contemporary at Central. And again, more and more people, which is very satisfying for the work that I did all those years, just to see you coming out and doing stuff like what you did. In fact, in one of the conversations I recorded with Peter Vale, when he was still alive, he died 2 years ago. I was telling him about you and telling him about your enthusiasm and how you were being able to do all of this system dynamic work, real time, real systems. Yeah. And I remember him saying something like, "Oh, when are we going to get Brian on with the 2 of us?" And we didn't make it.
Yeah.
But he was fascinated with how you did your work. I think I also mentioned that you were working from a shack back then, you called it. Yeah. And on that building, and you had invited me to come down and see it. You said, I'll take you up on the elevator, 34th, 35th floor, so you can see. And I chickened out right away. And I remember Peter laughing and saying, I would have gone.
Well, it can definitely make your legs tremble going up some of these heights. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's just one of the many things you have managed and overcome. Now, that was done, that your team disperses somewhat. Then now, particularly down through the rest of the COVID time, hopefully soon it'll be over. What other things have you done to keep your chops?
Like I was saying before, right now, at least in the New York market, we're kind of in a little slowdown as far as new projects coming on. Multiple reasons, just, the labor is very expensive, and, certain jobs, we're trying to be a little bit more selective of the projects that we're going for. Mm-hmm. So we're taking on a lot more work out on the West Coast, down in Miami area, Boston area, Washington, D.C. So, I'm more glued to the Northeast area, New York, maybe go up to Boston or something like that. But for the past year and a half or so, I've been in this phase of helping older projects that have been going on for 3, 4, 5 years, and they're in the very final stages of, closing out, just basically trying to go in and help troubleshoot some of the problems that we're having, whether it be, we don't install anything perfectly. So, we get some buildings that have leaks, whether it be air or water, just things that were done, whether it be just like a workmanship issue or poor detailing, whatever the case may be, but just going in, trying to pinpoint or diagnose or troubleshoot where problems are coming from, and then try to fix them. So this one particular building that's been my main focus is Central Park Tower, which is just 57th Street, just south and Central Park South, and it's 100 floors or so, about 1,500 foot tall, and it's luxury apartment units. So, the units go anywhere, I guess, $10 million to a couple $100 million on, what these units cost. So the people that are going in there, they're buying top of the line. So,
little fussy if there's a leak in their window.
Probably
at the 80th floor.
Yeah, it's a little hard to tell somebody, yeah, don't worry about that.
No, I know, but that's every reason to be fussy. But that is in itself. Now, did you guys do the original cladding on that?
Yeah, we did. We did all the original design, all the windows. There's some operable, or not some. There's quite a few, a couple thousand of like operable window units. Doors and terraces that are in various levels throughout the building, that doors that go out over the course of construction. People open them or misuse them, abuse them. So we go back, we have to fix everything, and we do it 1 time, 2 times, sometimes 10 times. Keep going back and fixing, and hopefully nothing ever comes off the building, because that's the biggest fear is that, something fails and then there's a casualty. So
yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of security they have to work about.
Right. So it's just been, it's kind of a new area for me coming in.
I was going to ask you, this is a kind of a new learning curve for you.
It definitely is, because it's something that's, like I said, a job that maybe started 6 years ago that I wasn't a part of all throughout. And now I come on board when it's 99% complete. And of course, everybody's turning around looking at you saying, okay, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? I don't even know. You got to give me a minute, so you just dive into the details and find the information and lean on the people that have been on the job for, an extended amount of time that know. So, luckily we have a few of those people still hanging around with us that, I can go back to and kind of get led in the right direction. Kind of at the end of the day, it's curtain wall. So the design and the intent of everything is always similar. I won't say it's the same, but it's similar. Where we can, if we have a problem, we're able to, by looking at the details and looking at the devil that's in the details, we can narrow down how to resolve any issue. So that's kind of what we've been doing on, 2 different projects that I've been involved on for the past year or so. It's not great, but it keeps it going.
Yeah, you got to buy all those expensive baseball uniforms for you.
Yeah.
I want the best cleats, Dad.
Oh yeah.
But so it's another way of learning. It's another way of keeping you where you want to be. Is there any chance that there would be something in Boston or something that pops up that you can go back to your build it from scratch kind of
that's the hope, and that's the dream. Get onto something that's a new project that we could take from the ground and go up, and take everything that we've learned in over the or myself for the past 20 years, that what's gone right, what's gone wrong, and hopefully get it all into that one side of the pile that says we're going to do everything right, and not have any problems, have a successful job.
The do right pile is very important. Do you have, over these 20 years, developed some kind of a way of like leaving notes, or some kind of organized way of leaving a track, so that, like, for you now, going back to the original project manager stuff, look in and see on paper or now on screen what might have been going on at that particular point in the building, or something of that nature. So a little knowledge management, I guess you'd call it. Yeah,
I wouldn't say I have it organized, but somewhere up here, and along with the other, group of minds that we have, working for us. Basically, at the end of every job, we always do, a postmortem where we'll discuss the rights, what went right, what went wrong, and what, where were the problems, or what did we do really well. And we try to always carry that on. And, we've been able to retain, some really good talent with our company on all sides of every department, starting at like our estimating and tendering. Who are able to, they know the equipment, they know the restrictions on any certain project or a site with whatever it could be, and just carry on, just a lessons learned type mentality, I guess you could say, that, knowing in doing it early on, getting involved early on, doing like a peer review of drawings, starting at like a system design type phase, and then carry that into, we always do a mock-up. We always do full scale mock-ups, whether it be a visual mock-up or even, and then into a performance mock-up, where usually the performance mock-up, those details will carry into the project, taking those lessons learned right from that system design phase into the mock-up and then into the job, that, we try to just minimize mistakes, minimize overly complex designs, or, something that we can see, that's going to be a problem that's going to result in a leak.
I think of that architect mentioned complex designs. Who's the one who designed the Disney Opera House in L.A. and
Frank Gehry?
Yeah, have you ever done any of his buildings?
I did one right here in Manhattan, the IAC headquarters.
Oh wow!
Which is
I picture, if you talk about challenges, this is tipped here and that's down there.
Yeah, he's just one of the great architects that are coming up with these complex designs. Everybody, I guess it's the nature of the architect is, they're trying to one up the next guy, the guy, whether it be on height or just on, geometry. And it's been the reason, why Permasteelisa's, been on the map for so long, is we've always been known that we can do the best and the most complex projects.
That's a great security for the company, and we don't know in the next months how anything's going to change. We're on the verge of whatever that'll end up being over there in Eastern Europe. But no matter what, I think there's an ambition that seems to exist among people who visualize that they want to place a building on Manhattan. And everyone will say it's impossible, you'll never raise the money. But then they pass the hat, raise an incredible amount of money. And next thing you know, they'll either pull something down and replace it on that footprint, or another building will come up. I think that's been if you wanted to do a visual of New York City from when it was owned by the Dutch and taken away from the natives, and looked at the different sizes as they've raised, folks, I'm pulling my hands up here. That's sort of incredible energy of that city.
It's amazing. Even just in my short time in this city, just seeing the way that the skyline has changed, from even 5-10 years ago. I remember being over next to Hudson Yards when it was a hole, it was the train tracks. And now you look at it, it's a city within the city. It's incredible what's happened over in that area. And it's beautiful. The buildings are absolutely beautiful. So, but it's all over the city. There's so many buildings that have gone up, a lot of famous and landmark buildings that have come down, in order to build these new mega towers. It's something definitely, it's exciting to see, it's definitely exciting. I don't know any other word to say.
No, it is. Did you ever watch the Jetsons when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah.
Remember their metropolis was just supposed to be New York, but it was basically in space.
Yeah.
But, if they wanted to build a building, I think they had a gun-like thing, and they would just hold the gun up, raise the beam of the gun, and the building would just grow,
Yeah, too bad it couldn't go that way.
Maybe they had a lot of influence on you, Brian. The Jetsons. Judy Jetson, George Jetson, Jane Jetson. Who was the kid?
No, I don't remember.
The dog. Oh, will you see what happens?
You're aging.
I'm drifting off, but I would just run a little bit more ahead now. You have, I don't know, I'm guessing maybe 40 more years. 40 more years.
I don't know. I'll give it 10 for the time being. We'll see what happens.
If you stopped at 10.
You see this gray hair. I didn't have this gray hair.
No, I'm noticing, man. You're aging like crazy. If you stopped in 10, hard stop, I'm done. That last building, shake the team's hand. What would you do?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think I'd go golfing and go to the beach or travel, but I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to sit still.
I can't. You are like a project with feet. I mean, you have just the right makeup. And orientation. So I'm guessing if you stopped doing the work you're doing, you'd still want to be in some kind of way making stuff.
In some capacity.
Go up in the air.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, whether it be on a consulting type basis or what. I mean, I don't know. I don't see that I'm ever going to be able to give this up. I really do enjoy it. As frustrating as some days it can be. I do enjoy doing it. I have a great team of people that I work with. So, we have fun. We try to have fun at least.
And would you picture yourself in 10 years wearing a white shirt, short sleeves, with a skinny tie, pocket thing for your pens and your pencil?
I put my blue jeans on.
He's a jeans and t-shirt guy, and he's got what we used to call in Maine shit kicker boots. So that's not you because you could go back up to Windsor or go wherever the company has, and you could put the shirt on and kick back and write memos.
That's not me. I like to be in the heat of it. I'm
heat of the battle.
I've never been able to, managing the projects that we do. I made the transition from being in the office side into the field side.
Right
before the Vanderbilt job, but even before then, it was. These jobs are too complex and there's too many moving pieces and you can't manage them, remotely and have them be successful. You have to be in it every day and hands-on, seeing what's going on the jobs every single day, what other trades are doing or just the conditions around what's going to impact our work or how we're impacting somebody else's work. And it all kind of plays into the game that we have to play, whether it be a nice game or, hopefully we're always playing nice in the sandbox with each other. But, sometimes somebody throws some sand and, we have to get a little nasty, but it is what it is. You can't do that if you're remote and not in it. So
I love that. I think that's a huge insight in regard to what practice can mean to some people like you. You got to be in it, and you got to be in it in a way. If you had all the eyes in the back of your head and so forth. I found out by watching TV that the monarch butterfly has like 16 eyes, and it can see constantly everything in every angle from front to back. Now that would be a cool addition to the Brian Hannigan look, wouldn't it? But but it's almost the same feeling. He or she, the fly, has to have that in order to choose the right places to get their nectar and watch out for predators and look after their fellow monarch. And I kind of get that feeling about the way you're describing being in it.
And it's funny you say that, because as the project manager for, a job like what we do, we handle the building facade, and schedule is everything, budget is everything, and everything coming together when it's supposed to. So, I'm here on the job, I'm talking to the architect, the owner, the GC, but then on internal side, dealing with the production side and the engineering and design side, and trying to take all the information from every angle and put it all together. So, realistic timeframes or expectations can be given to every side, right? There's no sense in trying to hide anything.
No.
If we're going to be late with material because a supply chain is delayed, glass or aluminum. Right now, there's major. Every material right now is 30 weeks or more to get it.
Oh, it's awful.
So when a client is screaming down and breathing down our throat because we're either late or not staying on target on the schedule, to be able to take that information back to the team internally and say, hey guys, this is what's happening on site. They're accelerating, or there's a delay, or we're right on track, which never happens. But then being able to take the information from our internal side and convey that back to the client. So there's no, we're transparent with everything, or try to be transparent with anything. Because like I said, there's no sense in trying to hide anything and pull the wool over their eyes. They're smart people. But I mean, we're on top of that mountain and we see everything. So, just bringing all the information together and, like I said, just driving the team to know what the goal is and every milestone along the way, that hopefully we meet those milestones and we deliver our product on time, we install on time, and have a happy client. So
that's sweet, and that's business right there. You described business, whether it's stocking a grocery shelves or putting up 120-story building. It is about making sure that at the moment that someone wants to pick something off that shelf or to take the elevator up to their $20 million single bedroom place, that it all works.
That's it.
And so it does come back to the final test, which is how people experience your work. And I can't tell you how. I've been teasing you about putting on the white shirt and the tie. There are a lot of good people who wear those shirts and ties, and they have their role too. But I do think, though, that if you had to not be doing the window systems and the cladding work, all that you've learned to do, you could pick it up and place it in the middle of something else just as complex and somewhat crazy, but very much requiring someone who's steady and can see all of it. Maybe you'd be building the next section of whether the space shuttle or whatever it might be, but it's usually very complex, very time driven, high stakes, lots of money at stake. There'll always be a need for someone like you, Brian.
Yeah, I hope so.
I know so. I'm positive. Before we end, I certainly want you to explain to the listeners that everything you've learned about management, you learned in MGT 295 with me.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
There it was. Back with that movie projector and my chalky blackboard. I could only just give you a peek at what your life was ahead. But I never could have imagined anyone who's done so much in such a short time, really. What a great story you have. What a great story you're going to be able to tell your great-grandchildren someday.
No, hopefully, whenever I talk about any of this to my kids, or if they hear me on a phone call, they're like, Dad, what language are you talking? Like, what are you talking about? So,
I think they know. They know that they got a smart dad, and they probably can't pull the wool over your eyes, as my folks used to say. You can't pull the wool over our eyes.
Yeah, I know what they do before they even do it.
There you go. Well, this has been great. I appreciate it very much. And while I'll be turning off the recording in a moment, I definitely want to thank you again.
You got it. I appreciate it. It was fun.
If you'd like to hear more, listen in on Spotify, Automatic, and Apple Podcasts, or go to inactionresearch.com/podcast-page. And if you'd like to learn more about social inaction and the nature of practice, head over to inactionresearch.com for more information. Thank you for supporting this show. We look forward to hearing from you soon.